TSR Live special here for patrons only. I am joined by none other than the man himself. I guess I should call you the prodigal son at this point, right?
Yeah, right. Something like that.
Okay, so what have you been up to besides the obvious since I guess the big split?
Just went back to work pretty much is all I've been doing. I just have been applying myself mostly to my book right now, book 4.
Okay.
I have, I was just telling you before off air, I've relocated to a bigger place. So I'm consolidating everything right now here. Good. Still in Reno, but just got a new place, and I'm leaving the old video studio because I've got a 4th bedroom here in this place that I'm at right now. And it works a whole lot better for me. So that's what I'm working on right now, and just still writing the blog, just doing what I always do. Just went back to work.
Awesome. Well, that's good to hear. I think the last time I had you on was like 4 or 5 months ago, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's amazing. It's amazing how quickly time flies. But it's good to have you in here, man. Thanks for taking the time to join us. A lot of my guys have always asked me, when are you gonna have Rollo back? And I'm like, guys, I gotta make things cool off a little bit, and we're all good. So let's go ahead and get right to it, man. So lately I've done a lot of episodes about women who talk about, I don't need a man. They brag about the single life, how they love their independence, and they're only going to do what they want to do. And then you find an article that they write, I don't know, 2, maybe 3 weeks later that talk about, I've been single for 5 years, or I've been single for X amount of time, or I'm getting rejected and it's getting frustrating. I'm hopeless. What do I do? So I guess the first question is, why is it that women brag about not needing a man, but then literally 2-3 weeks later, seemingly overnight, they want to bitch and moan about not being able to find a man?
Right. Well, primarily it's because they bought into. Sorry, I got this new mic. I'm trying to work out.
Oh no, it sounds great.
Let me know if it's not picking up correctly. No, I was just gonna say the first thing is you have to realize that the women who are saying this and are writing articles about this, I think you're probably referring to an article that I read not too long ago on Twitter.
Yep.
About exactly. You probably know the one I'm talking about, where what was it? Was it the writer from Sex and the City who was saying something to the effect that
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that she didn't think that it was all that great a deal, I guess, for women to sort of go it alone for the rest of their lives.
Right.
And she is the final stage, really, I think, of this. If there's a blue pill for women, it's certainly feminism, but it's what I call the fempowerment narrative.
Okay.
And that fempowerment narrative is something that's been going on really since the early 70s, maybe mid 70s, like right after the sexual revolution picked up. In addition, because I think a lot of people, when in the Red Pill, we talk about, how guys are blue pill conditioned, and how they are sort of set up from a very early age to believe in certain things. Well, there's also a blue pill for women as well. Now, blue pill is the fempowerment narrative. It's feminism. It's this idea that women are, quote unquote, the strong, independent woman archetype, which is really kind of a brand to itself right now.
Okay.
Like whenever I type that out, I usually put the little registered trademark sign right after it, because it's.
I have noticed that on your blog.
It's so common, and I do that sort of as
or is that just,
I got into the habit of doing that for a long time because that's what it is. It's this brand affiliation or brand association, and it's. I'm sure you've heard of the term women's liberation.
Yes,
right.
Of course.
It's women's lib, right? That's a kind of an old terminology from like the late 60s and early 70s. But what were they liberating themselves from? They were liberating themselves from, or like when we talk about strong, independent women, what are they independent from? They're independent from men, is what they are. It's not that they're like this, strong personality or whatever. It's that they are independent. That's what the original meaning of strong, independent woman was.
You are not
independent from men, so they don't have to be. They don't have to be mothers anymore. They don't have to be housewives anymore. They can go out and earn their own damn money, and walk like the boss and talk like the boss. That kind of stuff. And we've been building that up over the last really 5 decades. Just, and in that time, of course, we have raised up and acculturated and socialized at least 3 to 4 generations of women who have bought into this idea that they don't need no man, that they don't need any of that they can do whatever the hell it is that they want, and that they are these standalone autonomous things that they don't need any support. They don't need a man. They don't need anything, other than themselves. Like they're these self-fulfilling, self-aggrandizing just entities that they don't depend on anything else, that they're we always say that, no man is an island. I'm sure you've probably heard that before.
Of course.
But here's the thing is, like, for women, that doesn't register, particularly in the empowerment narrative. Like literally the feminine imperative, the fempowerment narrative wants women to believe that they are islands, that they are standalone. They can do whatever the hell they want. They can make their own decisions. They can do whatever they want. And you know what? Fine. That's great. But the thing is so what are they, what are they cut away from? What are they separated from? What are they liberated from? Right. Well, they bought into this idea that they want to the conditioning for women would like them to believe that they are these standalone, self-fulfilling entities, but that they also that they don't need, well, first of all, they're not dependent upon anything else. It's not just not dependent on men. It's now that they're on their own, they are self-fulfilled.
Yeah, it's gotten worse. I don't need no man. I don't need anybody.
Yeah. Well, and then think about this though, is like, as technology has advanced, because we're talking about a liberation, like a movement, a feminist movement,
right?
Really, that began in the mid 1800s, but really since the sexual revolution has taken off, since then, in that 50 or so years, right there, think about all of the social changes that have happened, like the 70s with the the disco era and sexual freedoms and stuff. There were sexual, like anything that would be some sort of buffer or some sort of policing on women's like sexual behaviors, or anything that would in any way limit their sexuality is automatically viewed as misogyny or repression or old school. Like you're a 1950s caveman.
You're archaic.
Yeah. And so there's this separation between like a reality, if women want that independence, well, that independence comes at a cost.
There it is. Right.
So men, like for men, like one of the things about women liberating themselves and becoming independent from men the archetype or the model that they had to focus on was they wanted to live a lifestyle or make choices that was similar to what men were making, because they saw the masculine as something that was something they could model their lives on.
Right.
Like, so I'm going to be most women who are very wealthy are so because of divorce or because of inheritance. Those are the top 2 reasons for that. But with that kind of affluence, with that kind of stuff comes a lot of responsibility. So we talk about, we want more women in the Senate. We want more women in places of authority with respect to politics and things like that. Great. But you know what? All of that comes with a responsibility. Right. And it comes with paying sacrifices of certain aspects of your life for other aspects of your life.
And they don't like doing that.
Well, and here's the thing is it's based on this idea, and I've been really harping on this a lot lately because I've been reading The Blank Slate by Steven Pinker. There's this denial of human nature. And when you believe that both men and women are exactly the same, then everything comes down to social constructionism. So the only reason that men are where they're at is because of quote unquote sexism.
Right.
Well, that's not true. The reason that's not true is because men and women are different. We have different natures. We have different, mating strategies. We have different minds. We have different psychologies. Our brains are literally wired differently than women's are. But we want to pretend that we're all these equal entities, and that men can just be their own self-fulfilling independent entity, and women can be their own independent entity. And that is like completely against the way that we evolved naturally.
Right.
Men and women evolved to be complements to one another.
Right.
So the strengths that I have as a man are offset by the strengths, or
there you go. Polarity.
That my wife has. So it's a polarity. And so the fundamental principle behind all of this is blank slate equalism, what I call blank slate equalism. And it's this idea that we're all the same and that we can live like a woman can live a comparable life, make the same choices as a man. But women don't understand that the way that men live comes at a cost. It comes at sacrifice.
Exactly right.
And so when a woman like this one writer I can't remember her name, that little blonde girl who was the writer on Sex and the City.
Oh, Candace or whatever, yeah.
Yeah, when she says, I regret making the choices that I made because now I'm older and now I want to have, I wish I would have had babies. I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have applied myself more to a family. I wish I would have made some different choices. The thing is now you have to pay the bill for the sacrifices that you were making, but you didn't think you were making. You thought women think that they can live a similar lifestyle to men. And they can, if that's what they really want to force fit themselves into. They want to force fit the round peg into the square hole. Okay, you can do that, but that comes at a cost of sacrificing certain things about yourself. Like men have to do this all the time. Men have to make lots of sex. The thing that really pisses me off, one of the things, is when women say that men are commitment phobic. You're a committophobe, right? We have those cutesy little terms for that shit.
Yeah, right.
And the thing is that men make more commitments than women do.
Oh, because every day.
I'm looking at the thing here. It says, Joe's here. It shows him in the military. Yeah, men have to make a commitment to the military. Right. Men have to make a commitment to their families. They have to make a commitment to their jobs. They have to make a commitment to the businesses if they're going to start a business. Think about all the things that men have to commit to. But the only thing that a woman legitimizes as a commitment is a commitment to her.
There you go.
Is the only thing that makes any difference. Yeah, when it comes to so when I hear women say, "Oh, you're commitment phobic," no, not at all. I'm cautiously aware of what's going on. So that's what I would tell guys to say. But what they don't understand is that with those commitments, if they want to live a similar lifestyle to a man, when they want to live like we've talked about this before. The Sheryl Sandberg plan for hypergamy.
Oh yes, of course. So
when a woman said, when Sheryl Sandberg, who is a very powerful woman, right? I mean, she's on the Forbes 500 list or something like that, right? I mean, she's a CEO of Facebook, right? In Zuckerberg's absence, I guess. But so she's writing books, basically saying, ladies, if you want to live don't worry so much about who you're going to settle down with. She's literally telling the next generation of women to make those same bad choices that the girl from Sex and the City is complaining of at the age that she's at right now.
Why do women ignore this stuff? Like, you got Sheryl Sandberg who is telling them, hey, do what Candace Bushnell does, but then Candace Bushnell turns around, here I am, 60 years old, I wish my life would have turned out differently. Why, even in the face of all of this evidence that this lifestyle is not conducive to female happiness, do they continue to pursue these same endeavors?
Well, like I've used that quote from Sheryl Sandberg in her Lean In book for a while now, which is, I'm paraphrasing here, but she says, ladies, date the bad boys, the commitment phobic boys, pretty much all boys. The rock band drummer guys. I mean, go and have your fun. Essentially what she's saying is enjoy your party years.
There you go.
Have sex with the guys who are never going to commit to you. And then at the 0 hour, right before you hit your epiphany phase, I couldn't have asked for a better person, a better spokesman for what I've been trying to say, for going on 18 years now.
There you go.
Here's confirming all of this.
It's been that long.
Okay, so it's easy for me to say that and point that out and have Sheryl Sandberg really pretty much reinforce and back up everything I've ever said about hypergamy.
Right.
But the thing is that women believe that. They believe, she's a very powerful woman. Why wouldn't they? And that's just one example. You want to ask, well, why did they do this? Well, don't they know any better? Well, nobody's telling them any different. And it's the same thing. Like when I talk about blue pill conditioning for guys, they get that blue pill conditioning from a very early age. When they're 5 years old, I always say 5 years old. And people are probably wondering why I keep saying that all the time. I say that because that's when children are like sponges. Yes. That's when they pick up all of this stuff. Like when I was in studying psychology, I had to take child psychology stuff. That really impressed on me. The little kids they pick up a lot of what their personalities and what their beliefs and stuff are going to be when they're little children. And So, well, if that's true, if we say that the blue pill starts for little boys at, like, say, 5 years old, well, what are we teaching little girls from 5 years old?
Right.
We're teaching them that they can be anything. I mean, we see this. I mean, you want to talk about, like, when I talk about the blue pill and how it conditions men for, like, sets them up to be, to serve a particular role when they get older. Now, that's one level of intensity for boys. What do you think the level of intensity is for girls when it's like all they ever hear? Like, I always, like, girls, women, particularly feminists, say this all the time, that girls are told to sit down and shut up, and girls are told that their opinion doesn't matter, and girls are told, and it's like, maybe in 1965 that was true, but ever since Disney picked up on the princess empowerment, like the fempowerment narrative, ever since Disney picked up on that in the mid 70s, that has absolutely been not the case.
Right.
Women are taught from a very early age. I would challenge you, go watch Moana, go watch The Little Mermaid, go watch any of these old school, any of the things that are educating your kids, and it's educating them. It's we say, oh, it's entertainment. Oh, I'm going to go watch the next Pixar film, right? Great. But you know what that is? That's an indoctrination. It's teaching kids about gender roles. It's teaching kids about the roles that they want to emulate and they want to be a part of themselves. And so you get this constant hammering of this for girls anyways, that they can do anything they want to. They can be anything they want to. And we have to understand that message is rooted in blank slate equalism. It's saying that boys and girls are exactly the same. It's saying that boys and girls, it doesn't matter what the decisions you make, whatever, it's the world is your oyster, ladies. And when you're taught that from 5 years old through your preteens, into your teens, into your early 20s, and all the way up until after your epiphany phase when you're 31, 32 years old, and they're still feeding women this, you can be anything, even at 31, even at 32, even if you're a single mother with 3 kids from 2 different fathers, you can still have the world. And it's this constant, it's never ending. And so for women to actually wake up to that, to actually unplug from their own blue pill, is like next to impossible, because they build up their entire existence centers on all of that being true.
Is that because they're ego invested? Is that what that is?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. I use that term quite a bit. Ego investment, by the way, just for people who are unfamiliar with that term, or they hear me using it all the time and they don't know what it means. Right. They think that I just like fall back on it and just pull the shit out of my ass. I'm not.
That's a trump card, right?
What an ego investment is that when you believe in something, and an ego investment can be pretty much anything. It can be any kind of belief, right? So if it's a religious belief, a political belief, a racial belief, all these beliefs that help build what our personality is, or like if we, and usually people pick up their ego investments when they're younger. It used to be that we used to raise our kids and conveyed our values to the children, right? Those values would end up becoming ego investments. And so what happens is you believe that particular belief so thoroughly that it becomes a part of your personality. So when somebody attacks that belief, like religion is an easy one. If you've grown up all your life believing in God and somebody says there's no such thing as God, that's just a fairy tale. That's not an attack on the actual belief. That's an attack on you.
That's right.
Because what that means is, and this happens in a split second, it means to your ego that all that shit that you believe since you were 5 years old, all that's wrong. All that stuff that your parents taught you, all that stuff you heard in church, everything that you've ever built your own personality around.
They can't afford to change their mindset, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, okay, so that's religion. Now let's look at how women believe their belief, their ego invested beliefs in gender and gender relations, and where they fit into all of that. And Disney's been teaching that, but churches, of course, now are teaching that. They believe, they have an ego invested belief in the fempowerment narrative, which is you go girl. Female empowerment. That's why I call it fempowerment. That's a female empowerment narrative.
I love it, man.
Building and building and building and building. And so you get this woman who probably was writing and making a lot of money, writing scripts for Sex and the City.
Right.
And now she's looking back and she's going, God, I wish I would never have done that, because I led a lot of people astray. I led a generation of young women to make decisions that were bad for them based on false information. And maybe she's, optimistically, I would like to say she's unplugging, but too little, too late. Right. And so no one tells my daughter's 21 years old. No one tells my daughter the same kind of things that I tell her, right? One of the reasons I wrote the third book was so that red pill fathers would be able to understand what it is that they're up against.
There you go.
And this entire social order that is hell-bent on creating the next generation of femme-powered girls and beta blue pill men.
Right.
And keeping them in those roles. Stay in your lane, don't change, do what you're told, that kind of stuff, not to even question any of this kind of stuff. And so like when the red pill comes around, or Rollo Tomassi comes around, or even not, it doesn't have to be me anymore. I mean, it could be anybody. Like guys are starting to wake up to this stuff because we have more access to it with the internet and more, globalized communication.
Right.
We can finally compare notes. So we can unplug a little bit more thoroughly. But like now, I call this the village. The village wants you to stay plugged in. The matrix wants you to stay plugged in. And so when somebody comes out and says, you know what, maybe you can't have it all. I mean, that was one of the feminist lies, right? Like you can have it all, girl. We've got a long way to go. We've come a long way, baby. That kind of shit, right?
It sounds hilarious when you say it out loud, man.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, exactly. I mean, I can remember those posters from back in the early 80s that was like, you've come a long way, baby.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Like Virginia Slims, I think that they actually that is their slogan.
Why is that in Western cultures? Why is that so strong a message that we've had for so very, very long? Well, I mean, the guys will tell you, it's because of capitalism, or it's because of the global elites, or whatever.
The economy, or whatever.
Here's the thing: is none of that works unless men are men and women are women.
Right.
And so our natures are a certain way, and we need to I think women I think if I have a mess, one of these days I'm gonna have to write a post directed at women, saying, watch
out for that.
Well, here's the thing, like you had Hunter, you had Rich, you had AJ Cortez. They all three of these guys, and I think maybe there was one more guy. They wrote these tweets about like what a real woman would do, right? Or what here's my list of criteria for women to qualify to me for.
Oh, listen, AJ made the news here in Philly with his.
Yeah, well, I mean, what's funny is I wrote, and since you probably read the first book, in the first book I have a chapter in there called Qualities of the Prince, and I did exactly what these guys did, like way back in 2006 or 2007, where I created a fake Plenty of Fish. I think it was Plenty of Fish or OK Cupid.
They're all the same.
Yeah. And what I did was I took one woman's list of criteria and I just gender swapped all those criteria, and women lost their minds just as much as they are with AJ and the rest of these guys, right? And so why is that? Why is it that women are allowed to have standards and men are not allowed to have standards? And so we're talking about that, but the thing is that women don't want to be told that they have to make different choices, that they have to, like, maybe guess what, just because you're a strong independent woman is no guarantee that the choices you make are going to be wise, informed decisions.
Right. It's not guaranteed for us as men either.
Yeah. I mean, because they're trying to live more like a masculine ideal. Okay, fine. That comes with sacrifice. That comes with consequences. That comes with a lot of cost that's invested into that, and women don't let that. Guys always say, do you believe in women having the right to vote? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, fine, that's whatever. Great. If they, can't women just be whatever they want to be? Yes, fine. You want to be a doctor, you want to be a strong independent
lawyer, whatever. Do
great. Go right ahead and do that. The thing is don't come and place the consequences or the costs of the sacrifices that you made back on men.
There you go. Because that's what decision you made.
Yeah. So you make a decision. You say, it kind of sucks that I didn't have kids, But here I am telling women to make the same decisions and the same choices that I made, and look, and it didn't work out the way I thought it was, and I really regret, doing what I did. Well, people want to hear about your regrets, but they still want men to go, okay, baby, that's fine. Or you get women who make their decisions in their 20s and they have kids or, whatever. And then when they get to, so they made some decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe they decided to freeze their eggs, or maybe they decided they wanted to be careerist. Most women aren't careerist. I think men need to understand that, when we see a woman who is like empowered and she's got a middle management job, that's not a career, man. That's not some woman who's like starting her own business. There are very, very few.
I'm working on my career, sweetie. You make $15 doing data entry.
There are very like, okay, you look at Sheryl Sandberg, it's the same apex fallacy women like.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that, like, if you're going to live and make decisions as an independent woman, independent of men, and you want to model your lifestyle on the masculine ideal, then it is incumbent upon you to accept the sacrifice, accept the results, accept the bad, the bad shit that comes from that.
Right.
Because right now, the way I'm seeing it is that women want to play in a man's world, but they don't want to pay the cost. They don't want to
pay the price.
Yeah, they don't want to pay that. And so instead what they do is they want a man to come in and take care of them. They want a man to come in and to make everything better again, saying, oh, maybe this wasn't what I really thought it was going to be. That's fine. But don't place that cost. If you want to be a strong, independent woman,
do what you got to do.
Make your decisions, do whatever you want, but don't expect men to cover your ass, and don't expect men to respond to you in a particular way just because you think that you're entitled to certain, respect, or you're entitled to a man's attraction, or you're entitled to a man's, attention, whatever. Don't think that you're entitled to those things, because you are going to make decisions that are going to affect the way that your life is going to be. And men are not there to babysit you. They're not there to hold your hand. If you're going to be independent, you're going to be independent of all of this shit.
That's right.
And that's where my big, people say, well, Rollo hates women. No, I don't hate women. I hate the fact
women very much.
that responsibility of their bad decisions back on men.
Now, something you said a little bit earlier sort of rang a bell with me. It was actually a conversation that you and I had. It was on one of the ones that we had, together. And it was more or less the deregulation of the sexual marketplace. You alluded to it a little bit earlier. Back in the 60s, that's when first wave feminism was in full swing. In the 70s, or actually right at the end of the 60s, free love. In the 70s, it was all about disco, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And now we're all the way to today. What is your opinion on the deregulation of the sexual marketplace being directly correlated with the strong independence? Does a woman's supposed sexual freedom, does that give her more of an ego? Does that make her overconfident? Well, all these guys want to fuck me, so I can do whatever I want to do. Or is that something that's independent of sex?
Well, here's the other thing is, like, because of this idea of independent, hopefully I'll answer your question here, but because of the independence that women have, remember what I was telling you about how women want to place the responsibilities for those decisions back on men. Well, right. It's not just the responsibilities and the bad results of that. It's also an expectation that men play along with making their independent choices the best that they could possibly be.
Right.
So when you got because we all believe in this blank slate bullshit, and that what that means is that everything, if you don't buy into if you buy into the blank slate, it also means that society, this nebulous society, is the patriarchal society, is what is influencing your ideas or your beliefs or what you're. It's no longer about like how you evolved. It's like nature or nurture, but in their case, it's all nurture,
right,
and no nature, and so it falls back on social constructionism,
right.
And so as a result of that, and Dalrock has written about this too. He had a really great post called "Feminism Would Work So Great If Men Would Just Cooperate with It," And so the reason that feminism is a failure is because men won't cooperate along with it.
Right.
And I laughed at that when I first saw that, because it's true, because it's like guys are naturally don't want to do, like we naturally want to have sex with beautiful women. We naturally we're aroused by, innately, if we're heterosexual, we're aroused by beautiful women. I have this one quote, I saw this one time, and it was a really great quote from Jurassic Park. And remember in Jurassic Park when they were driving through the Jurassic Park on the very first tour, and the scientists are in a car and they see this goat that's out there in the field.
Yes.
Eating this one little goat, one teeny little goat to a Tyrannosaurus Rex. And they're feeding it right there. Yeah, I mean, he eats it and stuff. But what one of the I forget, Dr. whatever his name is, he says, T-Rex doesn't want to be fed. He wants to hunt.
Yes.
You can't repress 65 million years of gut instinct.
That's right.
And that always kind of stuck with that quote, stuck with me, because it's so true for men too, or human beings, I should say, because we still have the same genetic makeup. We still have the same brain architecture of our, hunter-gatherer ancestors. Cro-Magnon
man,
99% of human history was spent in hunter-gatherer tribes.
Right.
The very brief instance between, like, say now and maybe 4,000 BC or whatever,
minuscule. I mean,
a minuscule amount of time, right? And so, but we still have that, and so we still have that gut instinct and that natural drive for certain things. That's why when we see a Playboy pull up the centerfold, you get a hard on, right? Because you say, okay, because that's a cue. That was in our ancestral past. If you saw a woman like that, you would go, wow, all right, I'm going to get after it. It looks like she's indicating she wants to have sex with me, so I'm going to go and do that. Well, here's the thing, is that when you get into the fempowerment movement and you get into modern society that is a gynocentric, that is a feminine primary social order, that is founded on the blank slate, that is founded on social constructionism, it throws all of that. It throws 65 million years of gut instinct out the window.
Yep.
Right. And it's just absolute 100%. It's the most ludicrous bullshit. But we believe it. We built a whole society on it. We watched a Disney movie based on it. Everything that our HR departments are all dependent on exactly that same thing. Is that all of that stuff, we've evolved past all that. We don't need to worry about that kind of stuff, And it's like, don't worry about if you're a T-Rex, eat the little goat, you'll be fine. That's what you're saying to men,
right?
So it's like, no, that's why I laughed when Dalrock's thing was titled, feminism would work great if it weren't for men not cooperating. Well, of course they're not going to cooperate. We're not designed to do. We didn't evolve to believe in the bullshit lies that feminism and a feminine primary social order keeps trying to push onto men.
Well, it appears that a lot of men are cooperating.
Well, when we see like Tess Holliday on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
Oh my God, dude!
What's the message behind that? The medium, of course, is her being on the cover of Sports Illustrated. Right. What's the message? The message is, guys, this is what you should really be attracted to.
Oh, Jesus.
Okay. Well, that's the message. How did we come to that message? What was the process of us getting to the point where we go, I'm supposed to be aroused by this land whale? Oh, I'm supposed to get a hard on because you told me to?
Yeah, they're trying to negotiate attraction. That can't be done.
Because you believe that beauty is a social thing, that arousal should be a social construct, that the only reason I don't find Tess Holliday attractive or arousing is because I was taught at a very early age to be like, I was brainwashed to like Playboy centerfolds.
Right.
No, bullshit. Because like that is the way and I can prove to you that it's bullshit, because I can show you how our brains are wired. I can show you that when a man sees, I can show you the research. It shows
this is biological. This is chemical.
When a man sees a half-naked woman and he gets aroused by it, it stimulates the same part of his brain as tool usage. Why? Well, because he's trying to solve a problem.
There you go.
I need a tool to solve the problem. Here's a problem. The problem is reproduction. How am I going to get from where I am now to reproducing with this beautiful woman over here? How am I going to do that? Well, all of that gets thrown out the window when we believe that everything is socially constructed. And so when we see and we have a woman that is telling us that, or we have a female dominated society that says you should get aroused by Tess Holliday, that is what it's saying, is that you should believe in this. And if you don't believe in this, then there's something wrong with you. If you are I was just reading about how there's these classes right now to teach men to abandon their toxic masculinity,
right?
Like how to basically it's a re-education camp, how to how to be less toxically masculine. Well, again, all of that depends on one thing. It's a belief in a blank slate, and it's a belief in in that you learned your toxic masculinity. No, you were evolved to have that. So should you be going on? What gets me is I have these guys who will say something to the effect that, that they'll be very usually they're like this very liberal leftist kind of like hippy dippy shit where it's like, we need to live more in tune and harmonious with our surroundings and go out and live, like Burning Man. Usually I'm sure you've seen, but Burning Man out here, everybody's like, well, if we could just live in this great big commune and be in, like, they loved American Indians because they lived with nature and they were harmonious with it and everything. But when it comes to gender, they are absolutely the opposite.
Yes.
They think that they think that men shouldn't be men. Men are the only reason you want to get with a woman is because you were taught by a society, a fiendish social construct to believe that a woman that looks like this is more attractive than another one. No, it's not. You're not living harmoniously with the way that we evolved.
And if you were to drop, 2 million men and women in the middle of the forest, guess what, Rollo? The gender roles, the sex roles would it would be a naturally red pill society. The strongest men would sleep with the most beautiful women, and the most beautiful women would get with the strongest men. That's living that's living harmoniously with nature.
Yeah, exactly. And then like Jordan Peterson's talked about this before, but he actually pulled this from this study that it's on evolutionary psychology, how they did these studies of the most egalitarian countries, the most egalitarian governments, or the most egalitarian societies. And they found that the more freedoms to be, egalitarian, the more that everything was like set as an equal, like men and women were on the same level as much as they could make it level playing field. Men and women still segregate themselves into traditional gender roles. Why? Because that's harmony, man. That's the way that we evolved. That's how it works. But we want to constantly say like so to get back to the main point here is like, so we've deregulated the sexual marketplace. Well, we've deregulated it based on this false assumption of a blank slate. We've deregulated it on the false assumption that the way that we got to this fucked up, or that we think that it's fucked up, but we got to this fucked up state because of social constructionism. And that's not absolutely not the fact. And I think that when we gave women the unilateral control over the birthing process, and I always say that, the sexual revolution, it's no coincidence that the sexual revolution happened at the same time that we gave women unilateral control with hormonal birth control, when the pill.
Yes. Because that removed all of the consequences and risks.
Exactly what I was saying before is like we can go and do whatever the hell we want, but we're removing the consequences for that.
Guess what? So that's not independence. That's not independence.
No, it's not, because it's not choice. It's not choosing to be independent. It's choosing to have fun and do the things that you want to do. But like, I think that when and this is not a moral thing. This is not about ethics. This is straight pragmatism here. Okay. When we gave women that unilateral control over their own reproductive processes, look what happened. Right. The spikes in no fault divorce came right after that. Spikes in abortion, all of those things that were consequences that weren't something under that old social contract are now something that we expect men to clean up that mess. We expect men to be on board, and country after country after country is now legalizing abortion. Okay, but look where all of that came from. Look where all of that started. And it started when the thing that deregulated the sexual marketplace was hormonal birth control. And then, of course, the sexual revolution comes right on the heels of that, because it's like, all right, man, party time, let's do it. And then so you
sexual revolution doesn't happen without the advent of hormonal birth control. And I'll also say this: women are not sexually independent. They are very much dependent on birth control to be sexually independent, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and another invention men created for women also.
But so left it at the vacuum cleaner.
Yeah. Well, so there was a cost that was associated with men and women coming together. Now, and Dalrock says this as well, as we've shifted away from a marriage-based model of raising children to a child support-based model of raising children right now. And so that's a result of deregulating the marketplace. But what I don't think that people really understood, because they didn't really study this kind of stuff back then. They didn't, you know, when it came to, first of all, evolutionary psychology wasn't really a thing. And they were, you know, gender studies and understanding sexuality and everything, that was just sort of starting to come into its own back in the 60s, because we were just sort of were like hands off with all of that.
The surface.
But in hindsight, now we can see what happened, but back then we couldn't. But when we gave women that unilateral control over the human reproductive process, like all over the place, you know, we have basically said, okay, women, you are now in control of your own hypergamy, your own mating strategy, your own, you know, the decisions that now you're in control of this. Okay. So please self-police. We teach our boys, although, because we understand male sexuality very much, right? We understand that men want to get laid. We want unlimited access to unlimited sexuality. And we teach our boys from a very early age, you got to have that under control, because it's not socially acceptable for you to walk around with a hard on all the time. So you have to be in control of your sexual nature over that.
Women don't have to.
We never did that to women. And matter of fact, because of the feminine, and here's fallout from the deregulation, because we did that, now we can't put the genie back in the bottle. We can't say, women, guess what? You're going to have to you're going to have to police the worst aspects of your own mating strategy. They're never going to do that, because we teach them that to do so is a repression. We teach women that if you were to teach a woman to say, hey, look, you know what? You're hypergamous. This is not good for society. You're going to make bad decisions because of this. You're going to hurt people. You're going to hurt your family. You're going to hurt your future family. Yeah. I mean, and those are the possibilities. I'm not saying that all women are going to do that. I'm just saying, here's the possibilities of what's going to happen if you don't police your own mating strategy. You'll never hear that. It will never, ever come up, because we're too busy telling women they can be anything they want to, and there's no consequences. And if there are consequences, don't worry, a man will come along and he'll absolve you of those consequences.
And if they don't, we will shame them.
Yeah, exactly. And so if a man, just like what we were talking about before, if AJ or Rich or Hunter or whoever makes a list of, hey ladies, maybe you want to think about these 10 things right here. Oh my God. Then you get on the 6 o'clock news. Then you have a viral tweet on Twitter. Then if God forbid you make something on YouTube, they'll deplatform you. They will throw rocks at you for actually having to say, hey, women, there's some standards that you're going to have to look out for, because if you don't follow along with these, you're going to be Sex in the City lady.
That's right. That's right.
This kind of stuff. No, you guys, just to suggest that goes back. And that's why they say you're going back to that 1950s chauvinist repression of women. That's what they'll say. Oh, you're a misogynist.
Right.
Just for me to say, ladies, I have some standards, and here are the standards. And if you want to get with a guy and you want to have a good, successful marriage, and you want to have something that is going to last and be strong, guess what? There are actually things that you have to do to please a man. Because what feminism does right now, and what this feminine-centric society does, is it teaches women that they should never do anything for the express pleasure of a man.
Yes, right. Yes.
So and they are taught from the littlest little girls that they should never do that. In fact, what's funny is I don't know if you've listened to any of the old videos of Jordan Peterson talking about how when he met his wife, how she was a feminist, right?
No,
And
I haven't. No, I've watched a lot of them. I haven't watched that one yet.
How when she was a little girl, that she didn't want, like if she got married, she didn't want to take her husband's last name or something like that. She was very much wrapped up in this feminist idea at 12, 13 years old.
Jeez,
and so there's that aspect of wanting to make that a part of who you are for little girls, right? So God forbid, even at 12 years old, you say, you know what, little girl, you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you will see little girls like swear like a sailor to tell you to go fuck yourself because
they do now.
And that's how early it starts.
Where are we going to be 20, 30 years from now? That little 12, 13-year-old girl who's raised in feminism, the Gen Zers, the millennials, the Generation Z people, the Generation Z, where are we going to be 20, 30 years from now with all of these carousel writers who have racked up triple-digit body counts? What is society going to be like? Or are the younger girls going to heed? Because the warnings are coming, Rollo. Not all of them are going to admit, hey, I was wrong for sleeping around. But there are going to be a lot of them that just keep it real and just say, hey, listen, man, I fought back when guys told me what I should do in order to lock down a man. I ignored it. And now here I am, 55 years old. I'm alone. I'm never going to have kids. Young girls, you need to learn from my mistakes. Heed my warnings. Do you think that the message now from these women now who are fighting back the hardest, do you think that they're going to have a change of heart in terms of warning younger generations, or are they going to, stick their feet, are they going to draw a line in the sand and be like, you know what, I don't regret what I did. Yeah, there's a little bit of a price to pay, but I'm still happy.
Well, it's funny is I keep watching when a new country legalizes abortion. And again, this is not coming from a moral perspective. This is coming from a pragmatic perspective. Yeah. When I see this happen, I see women celebrate it now.
Oh my God.
The attitude has changed. I can remember back in the 80s when they were having all this controversy. I mean, we've been talking about legalized abortion for a very long time.
Since Roe v. Wade.
In the 70s. But now the attitude has changed. It's like I just saw recently there's a new trend for girls or for women who've had abortions to get a tattoo of a wire hanger on their arm, someplace on there. Yeah, so they're actually celebrating it as if it's something to have a big party about. And so when I see that chills, and I'm old enough to have seen the progression here. So it used to be this. If it used to be shameful but necessary, then it used to be kind of like just something that you had to do if you were, in a tough spot. Now it's you're in part of the sisterhood, because you did something like that. And so when I see that to me is sort of indicative of this generation's attitude towards feminism and towards feminine empowerment. I've harped on this for a long time now. That we are in the midst. We've been in the midst of a gender cold war for a very long time.
Yes, right.
And now it's coming to a head because Hillary didn't get in, and now you're going to see in 2020 it's going to be all about. We're already seeing it. I mean, when you have the American Psychological Association declaring
mental illness,
traditional masculinity is a mental illness. That right, what is that telling you about that society? So where are we going to be from now? I would love to say that I had some sort of optimism about it. A lot of people say, well, Rollo, do you think that the pendulum is going to swing back the other way? I'm like, this is not a pendulum thing. Okay, this is like we progress through something until something really bad happens, or a meteorite hits the world and men need to step up and save women from molten lava or some shit like that. I don't know. There's going to be something. I keep saying that. So we're gonna keep devolving into a point where men, like traditionally masculine men, are going to be a necessity again, because we still live on planet Earth. Okay, yes. We're very comfortable, and I've got a great internet connection here, and I can talk to you thousands of miles away. Mm-hmm. But at what point does that become just sort of taken for granted, and where do we go after that? A lot of guys say, well, you just want to watch the world burn, or you just want to sit poolside, and it's like, no, I don't. I'm not gloom and doom like that too. I think things are going to change, but a lot, if you talk to the MGTOW set, it's like, well, let's just everybody go MGTOW, and as soon as all men are MGTOW, then women will change their behaviors. Like, no, why? Because T-Rex wants to hunt.
That's right. There it is. There it is. T-Rex wants that billy goat, man.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be fed. T-Rex wants to hunt.
Right.
That's why. So you're never going to have this ideal MGTOW utopia, because there's going to be guys who are going to naturally get laid a whole lot easier than you are.
Yes.
So they're not going to play by your MGTOW rules. So that throws a monkey wrench into all of that shit. And so whatever, maybe that's not the decision. Maybe that's not the way. I think that if there's a way forward, it's understanding that the blank slate is bullshit, that we need to start living our lives based on our understanding of human nature, and again, living harmoniously with that nature. I'm not saying we got to run around like, the freaks at Burning Man. I so want to go out there with a camera and just like go.
Oh my God, dude, the debauchery. Oh Jesus. It's the desert. It's the Woodstock of the desert without all of the concerts, but they still have live music there, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They have raves. They have everything out there. And you know what? I think if it weren't for the major degeneracy out there, I think I'd probably like it, because there's a lot of good art out there. It's a lot of artistic people, a lot of creative. I'm surprised Goldman is not there. I don't think he's ever been to Burning Man, and I think he would just lose his fucking mind out of.
He wouldn't know what to do. Like, dude, there's this pussy being thrown at him from everybody from every direction.
That too. But like I got nothing against, hey, if that's what you want to do,
that's what you want to do.
That's cool. But again, there's prices to that.
That's right.
And as long as you're willing to bear the burden of those prices, that for the decisions that you're going to make, that's you. But so like, where are we going to be? I don't think that anybody is going to. So you're certainly not going to tell somebody like Disney or Marvel Studios or any to make a different kind of movie because we want to send a different message to girls.
Right.
That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna play very well. They're gonna, you're still gonna have this element of like a lot of our entertainment and a lot of our cultural giants don't need, they can sit through the loss of some money on Captain Marvel, right? That's okay as long as the message,
as long as it's out there.
It's a great, and I know you had Roosh on a little while ago, and he actually posted something I definitely agree with, is that a lot of the multinational, big, huge corporations right now are not about making money. They're about social control. They're about governing through,
because the long game is more profitable.
Through commercialism. So I can remember when Captain Marvel came out, and I said they don't care if they have to buy out the actual theaters to say that it was a sold out show.
Yeah, right.
Because they can do that. Disney has more money than God, man.
That's right.
They can, because the message is more important to them, to get out this idea that, women can do anything kind of thing. This fempowerment narrative. Disney's
and a few $1 million loss for them. That's nothing. They're and again, just like you said, controlling the message. They make the money on the back end.
Exactly that too. But all that is them paying to get that message out into the social sphere.
Almost like an investment, isn't it?
Why would they do something like that? People, like, guys will tell me, like, when I threw that out there one time, somebody says, why would they ever do something that doesn't make money?
Oh my God.
Because they don't need to, man. They can suffer a flop. They could, if Captain Marvel was, and it wasn't, but if Captain Marvel was a flop, the only thing that makes a difference is that she's out there and she's putting that this feminine empowerment narrative out there, because we're in an election cycle where we're hoping it's going to be her turn. It's not, but we're hoping that it's going to be her turn, and we're going to have the first female president. Why? Because there's a lot of money that can be made on the opposite side of that. That's why when Hillary Clinton, when everybody thought Hillary was going to be the one, they thought, oh, it's her turn. She's next in line. It was the Gestalt feminine versus the Gestalt masculine, and everybody was so dead ass certain about it. Well, I guess it looks like I lost them, but I'm going to keep going. They are so dead ass certain that they were going to lose, or that she was going to win and Trump was going to lose. Oh, here he comes.
Yeah, my internet just goes in and out.
I kept it rolling.
Yeah, you did. I was watching my screen. I was like, oh, okay, he's still going. Okay. So I guess he's
good. Still, I'm still learning StreamYard too. So,
oh god, yeah.
But no, I was just gonna say is that they were so damn certain that they made business decisions based on the presumption that we were going to have the first female president.
Right. Oh yes. Oh yes.
They're doing the same thing right now. That's why you get things like this. And so the reason I'm throwing all this out there is because when you're asking me, is there going to be something that's going to change in the future? We're going to end up having the first female president at some point. It won't be in 2020. It might be in 2024, but we're going to have the first female president. And that will be a, and I don't want to say acknowledgement, that will be a confirmation, I think, of what Disney and what the gynocentric, gynocratic world order has wanted for a very long time. Yes. I'm writing about this in the fourth book as well. As I was writing the fourth book, I'm covering a lot of ground about how feminism and fempowerment and the gynocentric world order is assimilating all major religions, all mainstream religions right now. I'm not talking about orthodoxy, anything. People say, well, what about it's assimilating. Western feminism is assimilating most world religions right now. And it's replacing those religions, though. It's replacing those religions with a one world religion.
Wow.
It's replacing those religions. And it's all based on a Unitarianism.
Now you're talking about it. That's on a global scale.
Doesn't matter what you believe before, you can be part of the global female church, which is what if you look at what happens is when women get into these mainstream churches, they assimilate it, they turn the faith to become a more inclusive, more they call it tolerance, but it's not tolerance.
Yeah, no.
They want to say it's a religion that's based on love. And if you are
for Christianity,
if you are anyway, well, Christianity was the easiest one to assimilate, but you will see it's already assimilating Islam. It's already it's assimilating Judaism. It's assimilating the major world religion. If you look at Tulsi Gabbard is a Krishna, and that was another thing I was looking at is there is a real big, and I didn't realize this until I started doing the research for the book. There's a really big push for Western women to get into Krishnaism, get into become a Hare Krishna, right?
Right.
You'll go to these what I would if I saw it from a distance, I would say, well, that looks like an Indian event. Maybe it's a job or something like that. No, it's like women in New Zealand who are dressed up in that kind of stuff, and they're doing the Hare Krishna thing.
Wow,
they're all white women. They're all white Westernized women. I'm like, damn. Dude. And I didn't realize how widespread that was, but the reason for that is because it's very appealing to women's need for that metaphysical. Like we talk about chick crack.
That's it.
Pickup artists picked up on that really early because it's true is that there's a need for this metaphysical emotion. Like women process emotions differently than men. First of all, women do go instinct, emotion, and reason. Men go instinct, reason, and then emotion, unless they've been feminized. But that because they prioritize emotion above reason and everything, that's why you get things like this. That's why you get a one world religion that is based, will be based, when we have a one world religion, it will come through women. It will come through the assimilation of the feminine centric order. And this is, I'm giving away the last chapter of my book right now.
Breaking news.
It will come through, at least this is my prediction. It will come through what we're seeing happen right now, which is, when we have this global Unitarian I want to call it hippy dippy. Did you see the videos or did you see the story about how there was that one? It was a Catholic church. I think it was a Catholic church in San Francisco, and I guess they just said because the numbers were declining or something so drastically, they said we're going to have a Beyonce service or something.
Oh yes! Oh my
Beyonce
God! Oh my God! Yeah, and all of the lyrics from Beyonce songs.
Standing room only, all about feminism, and it was and everybody was welcome. Come on in, and it's like this pick and pull kind of Christianity, but it's not Christianity. It's all about love and tolerance and da 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 da. And it's like, okay, cool, but it's becoming something that those old religions were never meant to be. That they were based on something entirely different. So what we're seeing is these old religions are becoming assimilated into this new global religion that's going to be based on quote unquote love. And if you don't love, then you're a hater.
There you go.
And yeah, I've been writing about that quite a bit. So that's something that I see coming in the future very soon.
Wow.
With respect to women in culture, women in society, that kind of stuff. And I think that guys really need to watch out for that. We really need to be careful of that, because we gave women the keys to the castle. When we gave them hormonal birth control, when we said, okay, police yourself, when we said, you know what, we're going to base our social order on your mating strategy. Anything that goes for women is what you should presume is correct.
Man, right? Oh man, that's dangerous.
Yeah, well, it's
dangerous. That's dangerous.
It's dangerous because guys don't like when I say we gave away the keys to the castle, what happened, right? How did that ever happen? Isn't it a man's world? I thought men controlled this place. I thought it was a patriarchy. Like, no, it never was. It seemed that way, but it never was really about that. I mean, yeah, were men in the positions of power? Sure, they were. They were there because that's what worked. So when you see like women come into the workplace right now, one of the reasons we have such difficulties in the workplace with women is because those businesses that were established before we had women become part of the workforce.
Ooh, it's a good point.
On a masculine ideal. They were based on a meritocracy, or it's ostensibly a meritocracy in there. And we put women in there and it became a collective. You would have a old school capitalist work culture or business. Women come into the workforce and they turn that business into a collective, into a collectivist. So,
right.
So it's everybody has to get theirs, and everybody, now we need daycare, and now we need all this stuff. And it's no longer about turning a buck and making the most money. It's about how can that business serve women? How can that business be a better place for women to work at? How can it be more rewarding for the women who are coming in there? And it's and it's not to say that making money isn't a priority. It's right. That it's a lesser priority than other priorities. So
a la Captain Marvel.
Exactly. So that's when you look at it from a workplace or a work culture context. That's that. Now let's take that and let's put that into a global political context. Wow. So you have men who are all about a meritocracy, who are all about, that's why we had democratic elections, right? So everybody has their say and they can do whatever. And the guy that made the best man win. It's no longer about the best man win. It's their turn now. That's what it comes down to, is that it doesn't matter if a man is. I would be very surprised. I would be very, very surprised if we didn't see a 2-woman ticket on the Democrats.
Ooh, wow. Do you think that would, do you think a 2-woman ticket, to me, that's a gamble to me. That's really, because it's all in our faces.
Here's why. Because I think you'll see that because it will be, not because I think it'll win, but I think that it will send a greater message to society as whole.
Yeah.
Because I think that probably right about now, the Democrat side of the political spectrum realizes they cannot possibly beat Trump.
No.
Now, maybe I thought Hillary was going to win.
Dude, I was
wrong about something.
I was wrong about that.
I honestly thought.
Dude, I was prepared. I was like, well, Hillary's our next president. I could not believe when he won.
I could not believe that too. But I was really starting to mentally prepare myself to have a female president back then, because I thought that too. So yes, I'm not right all the time, but that was one of the signs. And so, but see, here's the thing: is I think you're going to see you're going to see a 2-woman ticket on the Democratic side, because they know they won't win. And so when he wins again, that will be more reinforcement for that side of the political spectrum. We're already really.
They took the Hillary loss tough. If he beats a 2-woman ticket, that's going to give them even more resolve.
Right.
Oh,
and so I believe that that's what's going to happen, and it will happen by design. It will happen by design, because they'll say, well, look what happened in the last 8 years. The Gestalt masculine has just been hammering, and they love that. They love that. It's melodramatic. It's like, it's what's supposed to happen.
Emotional.
Evil, white, horrible man is going to do. It was her turn, and the man took it away again. That's what they. Yeah, that's the narrative. That's the story that they want to tell. And so you'll see it. And how do I know that? Well, you'll see it in popular culture. You'll see the next Star Wars movie based on exactly that. The Empire Strikes Back, and it won. Oh no, are we going to win in the next movie?
This is how it works, man. Like, you see it playing out in social media and in movies. Let me ask you this: short of the mythical scenario of a meteorite hitting the Earth, what do you think has to happen to turn this around? What has to happen for? There's always going to be an undertone of feminism, no matter what. Even in the 1910s, there are always women who used to chirp. But what's it going to take to sort of, and I don't want to use the word pendulum, because I believe it when you say, nothing's ever a pendulum, but what's it going to take to turn the tide?
So we live in a different way of thinking. Unfortunately, you're not going to rationalize your way to a new society. You're not going to tell people, you're simply not going to tell people, hey, here's all this mountain of forensic evidence why you should change your ego investments. That's not going to happen, because
here's why you should date me. I have a 401k.
Exactly. The same thing. It's like appeals to reason. I say this all the time: is never appeal to a woman's reason, because women think emotionally. Maybe afterwards, no guy ever reasoned a woman into bed. He never said, hey, I'm an upstanding guy. I got a lot of money.
Record. My credit score is 750s.
Why don't we fuck? That never happens, okay, because it's an emotion. Well, so you've got at least half of the population thinking like that. So if there was ever going to be some sort of real lasting change, because change is one thing, lasting change is another.
Yes, very different.
So how do you affect that? Well, to even get the ball rolling, you've got to make an emotional appeal of some sort. But that emotional appeal should be, and this is me thinking like the rational male, that emotional appeal should be based on something that is rationally concrete.
Right.
So, like, for instance, like, you've got 60-year-old what's-her-face from Sex and the City trying to warn the next generation. That's rational. That's a rational appeal. Like, if you don't change your ways, you're going to end up like me. That's A plus B equals C.
Right.
Instead, you're going to need to make some sort, and I hate to say this, but it's like, that's the only way that you can get this message across, is to make those emotional appeals and say, you know what, if, we need to change things up. The other thing is that, like, when I joke about the meteorite hitting the world, right? And then we have well, the thing is when you look at most social upheaval, it comes like societal changes or generational changes, like generational ways of thinking. Those are the results of things that happen in the physical world.
Okay.
There. So like remember during the Great Depression, when everybody had to scrape all the pennies together, and you could tell a person, I knew them because I had grandparents that were from the Great Depression era.
Oh wow, okay.
And they would keep every last penny they could.
That's right.
And you never, like, if they saw a penny on the street, they would pick that penny up and they put it in their pocket. And it's like, it's a fucking penny, right? But they'll do that because they went through something that was traumatic back in the 30s, which was the Great Depression that lasted 8 years, something.
Yeah,
like
it was almost a decade. Yeah,
so they that generation, that period, that maybe 10 years, a 10-year period, that made a generation into who they are. Right. Same thing with, like, we talk about, like, World War II, the greatest generation, right?
That's right.
You can argue that, but here's the thing, that because of that war, that created that generation, and it created those ideals and that value. When we get to the baby boom, when we get to the sexual revolution, that was something in society that was a catalyst that created that particular generation. Now, what's going to happen when the baby boomers die out? Probably something else, probably some other, maybe it's technological. I don't think you're going to change a generation based on, unless you've got like something like a religion that really comes into, like, one of the reasons why we still have Christianity, we still have Abrahamic religions right now, is because the things that happened back in those days, seemingly insignificant,
right?
But because of the ideas, those ideas created other ideas, which,
there you go. Yeah, one begets the other.
So it's not that you need something, catastrophic to change a generation. Usually that's what happens, but it's, and here's the emotional appeal side of things, is it's the power of an idea.
Yes.
And so when people, I don't know, maybe this is really sort of aggrandized thinking or something, but like when I was reading like the Beat Generation back in the 1940s or something like that, that gave rise to the ideals of the baby boom in the 60s later on, right? Sort of these ideas that came up. One of the why are we now in an era that is defined by gynocentrism? Why are we now in a feminine primary social order?
Right.
Because those ideas in the mid 60s were fomented and built upon and layered upon layer upon layer upon layer,
cause and effect,
until you get a company like for instance, like Gillette, right? Gillette is a good example of this. Dude. Is that Gillette just they put out that one commercial that was done by it was basically feminist agitprop is what it was.
Right. That's all it was.
They know it. They admit that that's what it is, in fact. But why? How did they get to that point? Why did somebody in Gillette say, I got a great idea. Let's go get this militant feminist to come and do this 3-minute commercial for us so that we can come down hard on men in an election cycle. Why don't we go and do something like that? Well, that is a good idea to a business that is primed and ready. It's ripe for that. So if you look at Gillette stuff and you look at their F1 racing girls and they're in those real tight fitting bodysuits and everything, razors are a man's product. For that anyways. I mean, women shave too, but when men, you got to shave. You got to shave. You do whatever.
That's right.
How do we appeal to men? Well, sports, sex, beer, whatever, men in a man, right? That kind of stuff. Okay, so that gives way to another idea, and the idea now is that men need to man up and be better off, and be better, and
oh, good God!
And so you've got a Procter and Gamble, which is a multi-billion, as far as I know, billion.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They're having decisions made for them in their public appearance and in their commercials by other people who have a different idea, have a different ideology. They were raised at their values, their ego investments, whatever, whether they got that in college or a feminist primary social or whatever. At some point, someone in Gillette was open to the idea, why don't we get this feminist in here? Why don't we go and do something? Because the company, again, the company is an old, Procter and Gamble is really, really old, and Gillette is as old as my dad is, I think. But how did that change? How did their messaging change to being anti-men, basically?
Yes.
You're selling men's product, but you're basically shaming
men.
Right,
exactly.
How did that become a good idea? Well, it's because it took time. It's that idea has to mature and it has to grow and it has to be, you have to get enough people to be on board with that. And enough people are on board with feminism. Men are on board with feminism because they think that it's a means to them getting laid. Women are on board with it because why wouldn't they be? They get everything. They get cash and prizes for empowering themselves and pretending that they're independent with no consequences. That's a fucking great idea. Let's go with that. How can we build on that idea? I know. Let's get Disney to make a movie and promote these ideas even more.
It's a cycle, man.
Let's get academia on board. And I don't care if you're in the hard STEM sciences. You got to play by our rules and our ideas. And so those ideas and those beliefs mold other areas and other fields. So you get like feminism in the hard sciences. And if you don't, sign on with that ideology, then it doesn't matter what your rational ideas are. It doesn't matter that you've come up with some new quantum physics equation or something like that.
No, that matters. No.
Did you do it the correct way? What's the correct way? In this framework of ideas that says if you're a man and you do this, then you have to give credit to a woman for it. Right? That kind of stuff. Now, That's the power of an idea. So how are we going to change that? We have to take the idea, well, this is my belief anyways, we have to take the idea of the red pill and understand things from a rational perspective with respect to the blank slate and with respect to our evolved natures and with what we are as human beings. And I'm not people are going to say, well, all he is he's just an atheist. No, I'm not an atheist, man. You've got to take that into consideration as well.
Oh, dude, of course.
Because that's part of the human experience. Okay.
That's right. It's part of the human condition.
It's not even about morality or anything. It's living pragmatically, because we're not living pragmatically right now in a feminine primary society. So how do we do that? How do we actually get back to men and women being complements to one another? How does that happen? Well, you've got to start with an idea, and I think the red pill is a good start.
I think it is.
I think the red pill is a great start, and people are going to say, well, you guys are radicalized. Of course you're going to say that. Of course you're going to say I'm radicalizing people or radicalizing guys who can't figure this kind of stuff. Not everybody has the same mental faculties.
That's right.
Everybody is on the same, that's another fallacy of the blank slate. We're not all the same.
Right. Not all men.
We're not all the same. People, we're not all the same. But you know what? We can live more pragmatically. We can live more efficiently, and we can certainly live we can live more complementary, because right now we live like adversaries. Because
it's battle of the sexes.
Yeah, and exactly, a battle. And of course, my specialty is intersexual dynamics. Now, take it out of the realm of intersexual dynamics, and you get into politics, you get into business, you get into all this other stuff. How you believe with respect to intersexual dynamics is going to affect all of those.
Everything. That's right.
Realms. And that's why when people say, well, all that guy talks about is hypergamy. Because that shit's important, because that affects other aspects of your life.
Of course.
It's not just focusing on one fucking thing. It's how does intersexual dynamics. We're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, right? We're talking about he just basically committed suicide in his jail cell. Right. Well, why was he a son of a bitch? Why was he into young girls? Well, if you understand intersexual dynamics, you can get a better idea of why he was doing what he was doing, and why all the people who followed along and were a part of his world wanted to be a part of his as well.
So we got a question here from Nightshade X. He says, does radicalizing the red pill equal MGTOW? That's a very good question.
Until we have a hard, concrete definition of what MGTOW is.
Yeah, there's so many definitions.
Yeah, dude. Well, and I actually like the definition that Turd Flinging Monkey put out a long time ago. I think he's on board with that. But there's a lot of, MGTOW means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. I happen to think that the red pill is pretty much well established in MGTOW communities. Are they radicalizing? No more than Islam is radicalizing guys who want to get laid too, right? I think was it Adam Carolla or Dr. Drew, or
it was one of those two was on their show.
One of those guys, or Bill Maher said this before, is if these guys were getting laid, would they be doing this kind of stuff? No, I can show you research about polygamous societies are more prone to war.
Yes.
Because for a guy, if one man has 5 wives, that means 4 other dudes aren't getting laid and they're not reproducing. So what are they going to do? Kill the guy with 5 wives, or they're going to do something to say, you know what, I've got 4 daughters here. I'll give you one if you go and, shoot up this, Western nightclub or something like that. Right? Okay. Men want to get, again, intersexual dynamics, men want to get laid. What are they going to do to solve that reproductive problem?
Right.
So when people say, you're radicalizing young men, I'm giving men the truth, and I'm telling men what they can expect with respect, here's a better way to understand intersexual dynamics. Is every guy going to take that and go say, hey, you know what? That's great. I'm unplugged. I went through the anger phase. I'm done with that. Guess what? I spun plates for a while. I found a really great girl. We've had 2 kids, and we're living the Rollo Tomassi lifestyle. This is awesome.
Right. Hooray. Red pill.
Is every guy going to do that? Absolutely not. That's why I don't give prescriptions. That's why I don't say, here's 12 steps for Rollo Tomassi's life. I don't do that. Well, because everybody's different. And so some people can handle the truth better than other people.
So
if you got to, and unfortunately, this generation, this most recent generation of the lost boys that we keep talking about, they have been acculturated. They have been socialized. They have developed their social skills based on being behind a screen, behind buffers, behind, not having to deal with things face to face. And so because they have a different way of being socialized and understanding, because you have to have that. You have to experience other people. Otherwise you'll be awkward and you won't know. I think a lot of the times when people say that, he's a Spurg, right? Or he's got Asperger's syndrome. I don't think that that's quite so true, because I think we're quick to throw that out there.
Well, of course.
But I think that it's because those guys didn't have the same opportunities that you or I did, or older generations did, with respect to meeting people and talking to them. But now they have this other outlet, and they have no other reason to get out from behind the computer screen to go out and talk with anybody. So if you can be a MGTOW, great. Are you going to be a MGTOW from everything? Does that mean that you're going to stop socializing with everybody? Why not? Right. Because there's a lot of risk from just meeting people and talking.
Of course, yeah, of course.
In real time, why wouldn't you just stay? Why don't you go be hikikomori, right? Why don't you just stay behind it? So is it does radicalizing the red pill equal MGTOW? No, I don't think so. And if I'm gonna, I'll defend the MGTOW community right here. Is MGTOW means different things to different guys. So
I don't chastise them as much as I used to, man, because I'm really, like I said, I'll never endorse or tell men to give up on pursuing women sexually. But by the same token, man, I am starting to understand why these MGTOWs have just thrown their hands up and said, this is not worth it anymore.
Well, and then the thing that gets me is when you say that, and when I say the same thing, when I say, you know what, I get why you're like that.
Right.
Just for me to say that, there's another element to the red pill is, I can't believe he said and so you get you probably know this as well as I do, but since I'm not a PUA, I'm not a MGTOW, I'm not, an MRA, I'm not I talk and I speak to these issues, to a lot of the stuff that they're talking about.
You're just a married guy who understands intersectional dynamics.
Yeah, people want to throw me in with the easiest
label you.
Oh, you're one of those MRA incels.
Oh, Jesus.
No, dude.
Yes, married for 20-something years with a 21-year-old daughter.
It's easier to dismiss me because of that.
Yeah.
But as far as I keep seeing, and I'm glad this came up, because I keep seeing this coming up about how the red pill is radicalizing young men. It's if it wasn't the red pill, it would be something else.
It would. That's right. Listen,
it would be Islam. It'd be their
it would have been something. They would have called it something else.
Whatever, right? People always say pornography is destroying kids, or video games in these basement dwelling kids and their video games, and pornography is destroying them. It's
okay. If it wasn't that, it would have been something else.
If it wasn't that, it will be something else, because that's just a symptom of the problem. It's not the actual problem itself. So if it wasn't that, it would be drugs, or it would be.
Listen, I agree with you 100%. The Mammosphere, whatever you want to call it, would have come into existence. Without feminism, there is no Manosphere. If the movie The Matrix had never come out in 1999, the Manosphere would still be here. Maybe it would be called the Manosphere.
TFM's talked about this as well, as he said something to the effect of guys are waking up with or without the red pill. And even before he said that, I was saying this. I said, it's not going to be guys like me that are the greatest threat to the social predominance of the gynocracy, or whatever you want to, feminine primary social order. It's going to be women themselves. They're doing it to themselves. When Me Too came out, you didn't have to be red pill to figure out that you should avoid women in the world.
Yeah, right.
That's exactly what they're doing. And of course, Sheryl Sandberg loses. You just did that one show, which I thought was great. That one show about how Sheryl Sandberg was talking about how guys they're fearful and they feel threatened. It's
we have no idea why. And I'm like, wait a minute, what?
They're cautious. It's just, all it is simple pragmatism, man.
Yes, that's all this is.
If there's a hungry tiger in that room, let's go around that room.
That's right.
That doesn't right. Come on,
I
man.
don't want to put my job at risk, so I'm not going to put my job at risk by being alone with women. It's just, and again, it's not personal. It's just like you said, it's just practical. It's pragmatism.
Well, and that also gets back to what I was talking about before, is that women want that Me Too shit. They want to be able to redefine, like we're going into, like right now, the Bar Association is talking about making any, like, not even a yes means yes, but affirmative consent has to be for every sex act right now. You should probably, I don't know if you already done a show about that, but there has to be affirmative consent, which is exactly what I said was going to happen, like not even like 2 years ago, when enthusiastic consent was affirmative consent, enthusiastic consent is pretty much the same thing, right?
Okay.
And how if a woman is not having the kind of sex where she's just tearing her clothes off and she just wants to get into you, and even then, 30 years later, she can change her mind about it and say, okay, is that where we're going socially? Is that what we want to do? Great. You know what? At least we could say, okay, well, women have to be responsible for their own decision. We're not. We don't make them responsible. In fact, we make them as irresponsible as possible, because we want to say, you know what, ladies, if you had sex with that guy and he didn't call you back the next day, don't worry. You can just say he's a rapist. And it doesn't matter if you felt that way about it a week later or 4 years later, you can call him a rapist and you can go back.
Once again, a woman makes a bad decision, suffers the consequences, but guess what? They want to lay the blame at the feet of men. It's the same with feminism. It's literally the exact same thing.
Yeah. And so that's what I was talking about when I said that, men are expected to pay the price or pay the cost of women doing, women's learning processes or women's journey of self-discovery. And I know you've had Roosh on here before, and I know he was joking about this when he talked about it, but like that famous thing where that famous blog he put out there saying, women, we should make rape legal on private property.
Private property, yeah.
And that's not because he's a rape apologist. It was just trying to get people, it was a thought experiment. And he was trying to get people to think about it. And of course they hate him and they call him a misogynist, exactly.
And a rape apologist and all that.
But all he was doing, that was his medium. His medium was writing it in that post and everything. But the message is that think about this. Women don't take responsibility for anything.
Ever.
Nothing, ever. And even retroactively, they don't take responsibility. And men are expected to pay the price for their bad decisions. So if a woman has sex that she didn't really want to have sex, well, don't worry about it. There's a whole social institution that's already in place to make sure that you never have to pay that cost. And that's one thing. That's just, when we're talking about rape, that's one thing. There's so many other ways that we do exactly the same, like freezing your eggs. Right?
Oh, yes. There you go.
I'm Mr. Right. Oh, I'm 31 years old. Oh, don't worry about that. At Facebook, we let you freeze your eggs. It's part of our benefits package.
Unbelievable, man.
So when you get to be 40 years old, hopefully by then you'll have found Mr. Right. Oh, I'm so busy working on my career in middle management. So they go and they believe in that bullshit. And then they get to be 40 years old. They wonder, just like this one chick and, the Sex and the City girl, where you get to be 38, 39 years old. And you know what? The clock is actually, you're pretty much done anyways. Carrying a kid to term is like next to impossible there. But we present this idea that there is no consequence. Don't worry. Your eggs were frozen. It's cool. You can totally do this. And you know what? You can't find a man? Don't worry. We've got this sperm bank down the street. You can go and and you know what? You can find a hot guy who used to play water polo and he can be the father of your kids. Right?
Water polo. I like that.
That's nice. And so it's like when you, all we do is when you're raised in that, when you're raised up from a little girl to say, you know what, it doesn't matter you can do anything. Literally, you can do anything, and there's no consequences for when you fuck it up. So have at it, ladies. Go do whatever you want to. And God forbid anybody tell you to think twice about the decisions you're making.
Misogyny.
That means you're a misogynist. That means you're not on board with us, and you need to go to re-education camp and learn not to be so toxic.
God, sensitivity training, I think they call it now. I'll ask you one last question before we end the stream. Do women because clearly I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that women know that they need men, but they say it out loud. Do you think they do it do you think that they say they don't need men to save face because of that ego investment? Because again, I think that women there's this inverse projection. If a man expresses or shows that he needs a woman, he is seen as weak. So women then, they think that because, or if they express or show that they need a man, that they look weak. So is it because they think that it makes them look weak by admitting that they need a man? They just do this to save face, or are they doing it because they really don't think so?
Okay, well, first of all, remember that if you do anything for the holy dictates is doing anything for the express pleasure of a man is verboten. You don't get to do that, because if you do, then that means that you have some sort of need on a man, and you are not a independent woman, independent of men. So the idea that you would ever admit that you would need a man is on the same level as saying, I'll do something for a man. Right. I'll change myself for. Now, what's ridiculous is that women do things for men all the time. Right. Like you put on makeup in the morning, you're doing something because you want to look more attractive, whether that's just to be more socially, acceptable, or that's looking for.
Not doing it for the ladies.
Yeah, women. The same women who say, "Oh no, I don't need no man." They're the same ones that when they get into their proliferative phase, they're putting on red dresses because they're ovulating, right? And they don't realize that they're doing it.
No, it's subconscious.
That's what they're doing. So when a woman says, I don't need no man, or if she is to say, I do need a man, I think women are very reluctant to say that they need a man in their lives. And usually when they do, they are approaching that, or they're coming back to that sentiment because they've made some bad choices, and men are not forthcoming in wanting to help absolve them of the consequences of those choices. Right.
That's exactly right.
So, and just for an example, when you have a woman who went through her party years, she had sex with a couple of guys who were her alpha widows, right? She has, a couple of kids with two different guys. Now she's 31 years old or 33 years old. And suddenly that puts her into a position of crisis where she's like, damn it, I wish I would have done things different. I wish she's looking back and she's thinking like, what is it that triggers, what is it? What are the things, what are the catalysts, I guess, that trigger a woman to actually have a moment of clarity and say, damn it, I wish I would have done things different. Damn it, I wish I wouldn't have believed it. It's like almost like when we talk about how guys unplug from the matrix. What does it take to unplug a woman from the matrix? Well, trauma, pretty much, just like
that's the only thing. It's the only thing.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing is like what is it that makes them resistant to unplugging, to having that moment of clarity? It's this idea that they don't need no man, or that if they admit to having a need for a man, that will make them look weak, that will make them look dependent on a guy, that their happiness is dependent on a guy. And remember that the idea that particularly for the feminine imperative is that women are to be these self-satisfying, self-aggrandizing, self-autonomous, thing.
Yeah, right.
And I got into it with a chick on Twitter just yesterday morning about something about like how, like, because I was talking about like complementarity, like how men and women were designed all to be complements to one another. She didn't even know what the word compliment. She thought complimenting, like
she got the definition wrong. Fucking idiot.
I give up, right? And so I was talking about this, and I was sort of thinking about this as well, is that you can't even get to the point of having that conversation unless you're speaking the same language. Right. You can't even tell a woman, hey, look, maybe you want to think about X, Y, and Z, because there's this resistance. There's this barrier between you making that connection, so that they go, maybe you genuinely as a guy, you want to help. Like, I'm glad to have the money for my books and all that, but I didn't start off by like saying, oh, I wonder how much money I can make off of this. Right. I did it because I wanted to help. I wanted people to avoid, things. So there are people that actually do want to help you. Right. Sure. And so, but when you tell that as a man, you're telling that to a woman, that I think part of their blue pill conditioning is to be distrustful of men, because they think that you're going to either try to repress them, or you're going to try to fill women's heads with dependency. Like, you need to be dependent upon me, because that's how guys get in your pants. Right? That's how guys get laid. That's how
they manipulate you.
And so there's a resistance part of that. Then there's, so if they're resisting this idea in the first place, how do they get to it? How do they come back around?
Right.
And I think that there has to be a moment where they say, you know what, I was actually wrong about something. And that's really tough, I think, for women to do, because as I've always said, women are naturally solipsistic.
Sure.
And they have to be. They evolved to be that way because it was a survival trait.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a necessity.
Think about themselves more than anything else. So now you got this social resistance, but now you also got this innate resistance as well, which is women's innate solipsism. So you have to get past that. And I think that one of the reasons that they really hate that is because if you've gotten past the social resistance and you've gotten past the solipsism, then it puts them at a moment of really bad vulnerability.
Right.
And that is something that they've been taught for a long time, that they should never
be vulnerable, never look weak.
Yeah. And that, that's really tough, particularly when it comes from men. That's when women give other women advice, or when women like Janice Fiamingo, when she comes out there and she throws out stuff like all these facts that any MRA would do, everybody listens to her and they don't listen to A Voice for Men. They don't listen to those. They don't listen to Paul Elam. They listen to Janice Fiamingo. Why? Right. Because, first of all, we live in a feminine primary social order. So
right.
That's her opinions are going to carry more weight anyways. But it's because she wouldn't lie to you, right? She's a woman. She wouldn't lie to other women. It's the sisterhood. She wouldn't be against the sisterhood, right? So we take her a little bit more seriously. Whereas if Paul Elam says the same thing, he's a misogynist, and God forbid you ever talk to the guy. That also is something that you have to get past. That's another barrier of getting under women's skin and saying, look, I'm here to help, and this is what I believe you should do. And saying those things is, and then, you have to, so you've got past all of that barrier. Now you have to take into consideration the person that's telling you this and the personality of that guy and who that person is. Maybe it's your dad. Like when I tell my daughter this kind of stuff all the time. I tell her exactly the conversation we've had here today. I've had this conversation with my daughter as well. I said, you know what? You can do whatever the hell it is that you want to do, but understand that there's a price tag to that. There's responsibilities, and there's and what those decisions you make are going to have an impact on your life. And do not ever expect a man to come in and clean up your mess for that.
That's right. There you go.
I'm your dad. I'll pay for things. I love you. You're my only daughter. I'll do those things. But there is a limit to what I can and I cannot do.
That's right.
And so if you go and you have a child out of wedlock, if you go and you do these, I'll love you no matter what, but you're still going to pay the price for those things.
You're a big girl. Listen, even if you were to finance the whole thing, it doesn't matter. There's still a price to be paid. There's a social price that comes with that. There's you have a baby out of wedlock. It doesn't work out for you. Guess what? You're going to have a tougher time finding a guy to come on board with you, right? To fill that role, because now you have pretty much knocked out, if nothing else, you have devalued his need for his own paternity. There you go.
By having another man's child and expecting him to pay for it and expecting him to clean up your mess. Don't expect that. And understand that those decisions come at a price. Do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to go for? She wants to go for a master's degree. I said, okay, great, you go for your master's degree.
Awesome.
But and the whole world will tell you, go girl, get your master's degree. You're a doctor. Go get your doctorate degree. They will tell you all that, but what they won't tell you is that, you know what? You're going to have to sacrifice some nights sitting at home studying.
That's right.
Instead of going out with your girlfriends and going down to Lex and having fun and dropping,
Lex.
Maybe you don't. Yeah, maybe. But
I haven't been there forever, man.
You're going to miss out on some of that stuff because there's a price tag that goes along with that. So, and it's really tough and this is just for kids in general, just to tell them look, put off your instant gratification for long-term gratification. Great. But that long-term gratification also comes at a price.
That's right.
Don't expect, I'm all for your liberation and going to whatever, but just don't expect a man to clean up your mess.
That's right. That's it. Well, Rollo, listen, man, another great stream. I'm glad that we were able to because it's been a long time.
It's been a while. We should do it again. I'll have you on my show sometime.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, I'm down for whatever. This is what I do. You guys know who he is. He's Rollo Tomassi. TheRationalMale.com is where you can find him on the internet. Be sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel. How often are you on the air? Are you on the air once or twice?
I'm planning to. Well, once I've got this whole place set up, my dog's once I have this place all set up, I've got a few future plans that I'm working on right now. Well, first of all, I'm still doing Pat Campbell show on Friday mornings,
right?
9:05 Eastern, AM 1170. Check my Twitter feed for the link to that. I usually post it about an hour before we go on.
Always good segments too.
But yeah, once you get it, you'll figure it out. It's always fun. It's terrestrial radio, so I got to watch my mouth.
Yes.
So we do that. I'm doing Rule Zero with the boys on Saturdays at usually 11:30, and we pass that around. I'm not hosting this weekend, but I will be hosting like in another couple of weeks. So I do that on my channel once in a while. Okay. So that's just sort of
like you guys rotate the.
It's decentralized. We have a Facebook page for all of it, but like everybody gets to host. Everybody gets. So we just keep everybody at arm's distance.
That makes sense.
And then and it works. It works out really good for all of us. And then so like if somebody can't be there, then it's okay.
Another channel.
And then Sundays I do Rational Male 101 with Pat Campbell. And then I'm still doing, and that's at that's at 4:30 Eastern, and that's on my YouTube channel. And we talk about, like, we've been doing a lot of current events recently, but I think we're probably going to get back to some more like remedial stuff. I really want to get back into my old stuff. Like I want to like go back through the first book and do some of the basic principles, because a lot of the shit that's going on in the Mammosphere right now is usually a result. Like if people are throwing criticisms at me that I've heard of like, 8-10 years ago, I think maybe that's my cue to sort of go back.
I was going to say maybe a refresher course.
You guys you didn't read this, you don't understand this, and because if you did, you would not be making these rookie mistakes with me. So I kind of want to go and get into that. And then I'm also going to be doing some standalone videos. Pretty much everything I've done to this point has been live stream.
Yeah.
So and I'm in love with StreamYard. Big shout out to these guys. I really love this format. I'll probably be tweaking my channel to look a little nicer. People have really gotten into my AMAs, and I've been doing those once a month, but I think I'm going to step those up to at least twice a month and maybe a little bit more. I think people want a weekly show out of just me. So I'm probably going to have something. I don't know what I'm going to call it right now, because I can't just call it AMAs all the time.
Right. But I just figured that out.
Yeah. Congratulations. And then I'm going to do some pre-recorded stuff. And I've been trying, now that I'm in this new area, I'm scouting out new locations so that I can go do pre-recorded stuff. So I'm going to do these little 5 to 8 minute videos that are just on basics again. Because I'm kind of sick of seeing people rip off my material driving around in a dark parking lot in their car.
I swear, everybody buys your stuff, dude.
So I'm like, well, if they're going to do that, why? Obviously, there's a demand for it. I'm not going to go get in my car and do it, but I want to go somewhere around
riding with Rollo, right?
And just talk about basic stuff, and then finish the conversation in the comments. So I'm still going to do live stream, but I think what I should be saying is I'm just going to start doing some live recorded stuff and see how that plays. I want to develop my channel in the coming year. And so I'm sort of laying the groundwork for that right now.
Good.
And then those are my two projects, man. My two projects are the fourth book, which I kind of gave you guys a little bit of a hint today, and then working on my channel. So.
Good stuff, man. Well, Rollo, thanks for making time for us, man. We should definitely do this again soon, man.
Yeah, definitely. We'll hook up. Well, I'll have you on mine, or maybe we'll get you on Rule Zero, or maybe we'll get you on. I'll get you on with me and Pat sometime.
That'd be great. Thanks for joining us, Rollo. Take care, man.
Anytime.